Hey, here's question 15, second time lucky as I forgot to turn the microphone on the last time I recorded it. So here we go, picture of a website, hollybobs.co.uk. Well, this way it's about holidays, pictures of villas, different downloads, the wee weather widget. First question is what's the URL? This one you just want to make sure if they're asking that, just put the whole thing in. Don't start putting hollybobs.co.uk and then moving on to the next question. So that's the URL, and that's what you want to write down. Okay, so that's your first wee 1 mark question to start you. Remember section 2 is out of 70. Right, now you've done this in Notepad, right, you've created web pages. So it's just saying what HTML code allows you to format the text. So here's the word bold. If you actually write this in HTML with B and then /B, turns a word into bold. You've got a lot of different tags, so that would make the word underline. You could have an I and a /I, so that's a start tag. End tag always has a /, and that would mean that you've got a tag. If you wanted to make it bold and underlined, you'd want to make sure that tag's before it and that's after it. So you don't want these tags overlapping each other because it won't work. So they have to kind of be nested within each other, right? But that's a tag. Now you've got the location map, and what they're saying is that you click on it, it takes you to a different website. So it's an external link. Now, with an external link, you have to specify the full address. So this was meant to be me trying to spell BBC and the whole URL. So you have to make sure it's an absolute address. So that's the reason you use absolute addresses, because it has to go to a new website, so you need the full URL. So the reason why it uses absolute is because it links to another site. Now, we've seen, and you see this quite often, you get real-time information fed into your website, so it makes it more dynamic and makes it more interactive as well. You might also find if there's anything in which you're having to fill in a form, and if you went and find my holiday, you might not have selected resort. It will tell you that you've still to select one of the values. To do that, we use something called scripting language, and the examples that you've done in the past are pop-up boxes is JavaScript. So this is another language within the HTML document. So it's a language within a language, right? JavaScript and HTML. And it just really makes a website more interactive. Again, a lot of websites have different media and some have downloads. So here's some examples. They've all got one thing in common, maybe not so much this, but probably getting there. That's specifically PDF and JPEG are called standard file formats, which just mean that any computer system should be able to use it or open them even. So your PDF, your brochure which is done for you. The MP4, well, that's when they ask you to download the video. Right, so download the video and it should be an MP4, and that wee picture there, probably a good chance it'll be a JPEG, and that's an example, your villa picture. If you then quickly look at question 15D, try and hold it up a wee bit better so you can see it. Basically, two pictures, they look the same in this printout. The details are slightly different in terms of physically they're the same size, so that's the number of pixels and the dimensions in pixels. But you've got a bit depth of 24 bits, which is really high, and then a lower depth of 8 bits, and you'll find the file size has gone from 4.5 megabyte to 2.61. So you've actually reduced the colour depth, so that's the number of bits to save each pixel. So each pixel is 4000 times 3000 pixels, so you times them together will give you the number of pixels. For each pixel they're going to use 8 bits. So if you reduce the colour depth, you get a smaller file size. Right, this is the trickiest question. Okay, 2 marks. Basically, they've done a wee search for any of these flights from London Airport after the first, and they're saying, well, here's the results. How's it? ordered. Okay, how's it sorted? So the first thing you want to do is try and find the one that's the most obvious. So from Gatwick, and then there's Gatwick here, so it's not sorted there. You've seen this resort mentioned sporadically through this. The dates don't seem to have any order. That's the 5th, there's the 6th, and then back to the 5th again. This one jumps out, right? So it's actually going from the most expensive to the cheapest. Right, so the number's going down, thinking down, begins with D. What order do you know that begins with D? Descending. Right, so you can see its price is in descending order, but it's a 2 marker, so the chances are it's within the prices, it's then sorted in another field. So you have a wee look at something that's the same value, so this one here. So we could have a wee look here. Well, it's getting later, so or earlier even, so it might be sorted here. Have a look at this one. No, that goes from the 17th to the 28th, where it's going from 21st to the 19th. So it's not sorted in this order, and so it is a tricky one. So have a look here. Goes from C to K and then KO. So that's sorted in ascending order. Is it still? That's still sorted in ascending order for 225. We'll try one more. Yep, still sorted in ascending. So it turns out once it's sorted in the price descending, they've then sorted in resort ascending. 2 marks. It is quite a tricky one, but the more you practice, you can spot these wee trends. So try and find the one that's the most obvious, and then after that one, have a wee sneak peek and try and test them out. So you're really looking at the orders in which the other fields are sorted when what you've initially got, have a wee look at the same value. And that's actually question 15 done.